Welcome back. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have all of you here tonight. Here in the Issues Room. The Issues Room is the alternative social media platform that comes your way every Tuesday on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Tonight, I'm to be joined at some point by Alfonso, my co host. But in the meantime, I thought to start because at this time it's about what, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Volcano Shelton here sitting at Anchor, and just like to welcome you to please help me. Let's share the show. In the meantime, I know that you could be busy on your end, but I just want you to help me because sometimes it's a double-edged sword. You're trying to do this, and at the same time, um, you know, share the show. So help me. Let's share the show, please. All right, so just wanted to make sure that we didn't have the repeat of what happened last week with regards to the white air that just came from nowhere and screw up our presentation within the first 10 minutes that I had to leave and come back. So hopefully that doesn't take place. So I'd like to say thank you for joining us. If you're there, please, as I said, help me. Let's share the show. Invite folks to join us here tonight. We have a good conversation, um, and I'm looking forward to my man joining me, and he'll be here shortly, as I said. So hopefully we can get that taken care of. But in the meantime, help me. Let's do this together. It's so hard when you trying to get situated and at the same time do this. But nevertheless, it's better for all of us. So please share the show for me. Help me from your end. Um, so much been happening. One of the things that I saw trending all over the place has to do with this Nigerian pastor who's going around making news for himself. He said President Bwaga is confused, Liberia is confused, the economy is confused, the issues room is confused, Alfonso Yeno is confused, Volcano Shelton is confused, uh, Nigerian President Tinubu is confused. He himself, the very pastor, is confused. So many confusion, and so I just thought to laugh about it. I know that he has a good relationship with former President Weah. Is he seeing these things because he hoping that Weah will come back to power, and so as a result, he making up all this stuff about this one confused, that one confused. Um, well, only God knows it, right? We can all talk all we want to talk, but the truth is, only God knows who's going to be the next president. There's no writing on the wall that's going to say that. I doubt it. I know that we can presume and we can assume, but I don't see much of any writing on the wall. So let's hope for the best. But welcome, Alfonso. I'm not sure if you're ready. I see you looking glossy. If you're ready, let me know. I'll bring you in. Give me a head nod. But in the meantime, tonight we're going to be talking about two topics here that I wanted to show here on the screen live. To date, it is estimated by the Liberian government that about 140,000 Burkinabe nationals from Burkina Faso are in Liberia. What are they really doing in Liberia? We're going to explore. We've done some research. We're going to explore what are they doing in Liberia, what the benefits to the country. Are they there with legal status or are they just crossing over and coming? because Liberia is a free land of liberty. Come in, do whatever you want, get away with it, get rich, you know, create mining sectors, just go digging all over the country. Nobody gonna say anything to you. It's a free place. Um, then also the confirmation hearing of the uh, new elections commission chairman. He was asked whether he's going to, you know, hold the law to the letter that says that political parties or candidates who are under 2% of the electoral votes uh, would not be in the position to contest in 2029. So that's what we want to talk about. I believe Alfonso is ready. Let me see there. Alfonso, I'm added. You added, being added to the screen. Are you ready? Let me hear.
Yeah, I believe I'm ready. But let's
Okay.
test it.
All right. So
Where
go
is?
ahead. Go ahead. What do you want to say?
No, I was going to ask whether we're still getting that reaction.
I don't know yet. That's why I want you to be talking, and I'll
Okay.
leave my mic open while I check it out quick. Go ahead.
Okay.
So
All
welcome.
right. Well, thank you, Vakanda, for welcoming me. Sorry, I was having some technical issues, so I got in a few minutes late. But thank you. And I want to welcome our listeners. As Vakanda has said, please share the link and get more and more people to join the issues room tonight. We have two very important issues that we'll be discussing tonight. As Volcano said, 140,000 Burkinabes have entered the country. Are they legal? What are they doing there? Do they pose security risk? Are there other things that we can do that the government should be doing to control the influx of thousands of people into the country illegally? That's just one important issue we will be discussing tonight. I know everybody has also been talking about the issue of political parties that have less than 2% in the last election being banned. What does the election law say? And should the election commission follow it? Is that even constitutional? I know there was a case that has been lodged before the courts in Liberia concerning the constitutionality of this law. So we'll be having that conversation. Join us and participate in the discussion.
Thank you. Yes, it's still giving the echo until you do what we talked about.
Okay.
That will happen. So I have to continue to remind myself to mute. You have it on, but I don't know. It's still giving the echo. We'll brainstorm it together. But in the meantime, I'd like to welcome Jacqueline Willis from Atlanta. Again, Jackie, it's been a while, man. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us here tonight. Um, it's good to see you here, and also to my man Otis Glasgow. Um, who's also watching. But man, you were in Liberia the other day. I saw you. What you brought back for me. But good to see you. Welcome back. But yes, so Alfonso, it is considered here by the Liberian government that about 140,000 Burkinabe nationals are living in Liberia. Come from an assessment conducted by the Liberia Refugee Repatriation and Resettlement Commission, the LRRC, the Liberia Immigration Service, and our international partners. Most are concentrated in Grand Jita and are now moving into Riverside counties in other parts of the county. The government says the majority are engaged in agriculture, including cocoa farming and other agricultural activities, artisanal and small scale mining, especially gold mining in remote areas, manual labor for Liberian farmers and miners who reportedly recruit them because they are viewed as experienced agricultural and mining workers and often accept lower wages. The government has also expressed concerns that some of the migrants may be involved in illegal mining activities, according to findings cited by officials. Unauthorized occupation or use of agricultural land in parts of southeastern Liberia. So, LRRC, the Red Cross, the Immigration Service, other international partners, they saw this continued rise in the number of Burkinabes in the country. They decided to go and check and see what's happening, why these people, and I just stated why some of them are there. Uh, for agricultural activities, for mining activities. Miners and agricultural or farmers, they're saying that they have the experience and they're very, cheap to do the work. But not only that, while that may be part of the conversation, there are some who are there illegally occupying lands without deeds, no agreement, and also mining in remote places and just digging everywhere.
Definitely, and that's a very serious issue. Um,
And I'd
we
like to say
should we
quickly
should
before you
look
can.
take a step back
Can
and
you
look
hear me? Can you hear me?
Burkina
Can you hear
Faso.
me? Can you hear me? I'd like to say quickly before you go into it. Only in Liberia, because I had to look at it. Only in Liberia, foreigners can come from anywhere, just do anything, anything to begin with, anything. Go ahead, Barbara.
Yeah, and I'll place this at the feet of our immigration system. I think we have a very poor immigration system in Liberia, and so this has been happening really in time immemorial. You have people crossing the river from Guinea and entering Liberia and settling in places like Nimba and Granjit and other places with no documentation. Nobody asks them any question. They don't have to go through any process. We have an influx of people coming in every day into the country without any immigration controls and immigration system to put them in. And I think the issue of the Burkinabes is one classic example. In this case, they're coming in droves, and we have 140,000. I think that's 140,000 is way less than the number of Burkinabes that have crossed into the country because the government has very little means of really enumerating and counting them. There are hundreds of them, according to reports, deep in the forest who cannot be reached. So they just crossed in. They see a deep forest. They don't see path. They don't see people settled there. And so now, what do? They settle and start making their farms and doing stuff there. Sometimes people encounter them, hunters and other people. Sometimes they're not encountered, and so they remain there making farms and doing whatever they want to do. So that is a very serious. If you look at it from a national security point of view, that is a very serious issue. We all know that since 2014, 2015, Burkina Faso has started experiencing this whole issue of insecurity related to terrorists, trying to set up bases in the region, in the Sahel region, including Burkina Faso. And so that's how we have the situation in Mali, Burkina Faso, and other places with terrorists operating in those regions. So who knows, what some of these people are. That is the one reason why it's extremely important for government and everybody to intervene and make sure that the security threat or the security concern, to say the least, is addressed. Have other suggestions as to how this can be done, but I think the immigration service needs to get involved. This needs to be an all of government approach. Triple RC has gone along with international partners and documented some of them and has found out where some of them live. Now, immigration needs to get involved and go in and make sure that they are put through the immigration process. Now, the Ministry of Labor needs to get involved and make sure that for them to work in the country, they need to be legitimized. To let them get work permits, let them register through the immigration, let them pay for work permits so that they are mainstreamed and we know where they are and who they're working for. And then the third layer is they can begin to contribute to the communities in which they live as well, such as paying taxes, come out of the shadows and pay taxes because as they live there, they'll be using the social services in those places. If they get sick, they'll go to hospital, right? They'll be the children that have kids will go to schools. So until we document them and mainstream them, there will be a lot of strains on the social services in those places because the population is growing and they are not contributing. So it's important for us to also mainstream them for that purpose as well.
Yeah, I mean, Good layout, good layout. But what is intriguing is that these folks, they have to go through Africa Coast to come to Liberia. So what they're doing is they're passing with a bundle in the Ivorian and say, where you're going? They say, no, we ain't coming here, or we going to that free country called Liberia. Because that's what bothers me. How can this number of people, do you know what it means to see 140,000 people from another country? Now, let's say yes, we're all black people, we're all Africans, but the things that they do to us, we can do it to them. I bet you go to Burkina Faso right now, you can find 140,000 Liberians just taking up occupation there and moving in places and doing things and digging all over the place. Just the other day, we go share the so-called Solomba town and the river there, Makuna River, Guinea and occupy our country. We used to be 43,000 square miles. We're no longer 43,000 square miles because that chunk of land that Guinea is occupying, at the end of the day, they have to take it out of the 43,000 square miles. So how do we just sit and allow our country to be so porous, our borders? We don't have the, and it bothers me when we say we have a central government in Liberia, situated in Monrovia, and all those guys who sit out there in the legislature want to pocket all the money. Everything goes to salary, and they sit down in Monrovia. When it comes to these kinds of things that are so scaring for our country, they don't take it seriously until it backfires. And then when it backfires, they don't build the capacity to address it and have any kind of proper redress. That is why the situation at the border with Guinea has just died, literally died. We don't know what the outcome is as it is. So now you have 140,000 Burkinabes. And this story has started when they were not a lot. The Grandidians were complaining. Then later on, we hear, oh, the people that just come, they can't help the farm, then they go back. But before they get back to Burkina Faso, they got to cross through all of Ivory Coast, right? So where are they going back? Instead, the number now has risen to 140,000, like you're saying. That number could be more. Because what happening here, if you have gone into Grand G there now, and there's nowhere to turn, you now in River G. I'm not River G, River Cess. The next place now is Grand Bassa County. The next place now is Grand Crew in Sano. And then before you make up your mind, we have another 2, 3 million people in our country undocumented, and we run the risk. We run the risk. So it puts pressure on local resources, immigration documentation challenges, and security concerns, especially around the border and in these mining areas. What are we benefiting as a country when we got all these people just coming and just digging and pillaging and digging and digging and digging and taking everything out of the country? You know, what do we have to show for it? The Chinese come to do their own. Everybody come to just digging. When would we become an elephant meat as a nation?
Yeah. So I think we need to, as going back to where I started, excuse me, we need to begin from, in terms of cross-border migration, we need to go back to strengthening our immigration system. To go back to your question regarding how they're coming, whether they're just crossing the entire Ivory Coast and coming into Liberia, I think it's a combination of things. First of all, there's a very huge population of Burkinabes in the Ivory Coast. So they, according to history, they are actually responsible or contributed significantly to the Ivorian miracle, which is between the 1950s and 60s when Ivory Coast boomed, the Ivorian economy boomed through agriculture, cocoa and coffee. And today, Ivory Coast is the largest exporter of coffee and cocoa, I should say, in the world. Burkina Faso is a very poor country. So there are no jobs. So poor Burkinabes from the rural parts of Burkina Faso migrated in huge numbers to the Ivory Coast. And they worked on farms. they helped to make the cocoa and coffee farms in Ivory Coast that today got Ivory Coast to where it is in terms of being the leader in cocoa export in the world. So some of them might be coming from farms in the Ivory Coast. So they might not be coming directly from Burkina Faso, although some of them might also be coming directly from Burkina Faso. All of our countries in the West African sub-region have very porous borders, so people can rarely cross in and out into countries without being detected. And that is why I said from the beginning it's extremely important, given what everything that's going on in the West African sub-region, um, that we strengthen and reinforce our immigration protection service, and also put immigration policies in place that say, hey, look, Burkinabes, if you want to come into the country, that's fine. Our laws permit you to do so, but you have to go through the right processes. So these are the official crossing points of entry. You have to cross through these points of entry, and when you come in, we'll document you, we'll register you, and then we give you a path, such as getting a work permit, and then you can begin to work if that is your goal. That will also help our concerns with national security if we register these people and are able to track them. One benefit we can derive from this, which I wrote about on Facebook, is utilize their services to boost our agricultural manpower, because we have a lot of, one, they contributed very significantly to the agricultural productivity in Ivory Coast, and a lot of them are currently involved in agricultural activities in Liberia. So we can utilize them, but let's first register them, document them, be able to track them, and then get our farmers to put them to work, and help us with our agricultural productivity, because we're lacking behind. But that is the first thing we need to do, is to begin with tracking and documenting them and getting them out of the shadows, because the thing is, they're currently hiding, a lot of them. But if we said, no, you don't need to hide, come out, you can register and work and stay here and raise your family here. But you have to contribute, and we have to make sure that you go through the process, and we have to know where you are. I'm sure a lot of them will come out of the shadows and will begin to make meaningful contributions to our societies and to our communities, just as they have done in other places. Our immigration law actually allows people of Negro descent to come to Liberia and become citizens.
And no one is saying that's
Yeah,
not the case. No one
yeah,
is saying that. And I see people, River Says Pro is saying that we took LPA from the Lebanese. Yeah, but it was structured. It
mhm,
was accounted for. So in this case, the government has to work. I don't think that I have any problem with foreigners coming into Liberia. I mean, I was once a foreigner in another country, but the fact here is that there's a process to become legalized in any nation. This is just a fact. But don't just come all over the place and start digging and doing things and mining and stuff like that, because you take away from us the economic effects, the governance of rule of law, regional diplomatic implications. All of these things are critical, like you talk about. We are in desperate times, dangerous times. You know, how many times haven't we had to deal with external invasions around Africa? People using rebel groups, uh insurgent groups, military groups, whatever, using other territories to exploit. So that's why it's important for this to be a discussion on the table. And it may look common now, but as this number continue to rise like a tidal wave, you wouldn't have the time, because it's going to be crazy. The 5 point something million people we're talking about in Liberia right now, if you were to extrapolate the numbers up of foreigners that are undocumented, you could be clocking anywhere to close to a million.
yep.
You could be clocking anywhere there. So that's why it's important for us to have this conversation now and to begin to look at the framework, like you're referencing, Alfonso, to begin to look at a framework that we as a government and people can put in place to address some of these causes. Because it's the Burkinabes today. What about the next group? What
Yeah,
about the next group? What about the next group? And sooner or later, we already got 43,000 square miles again because Guinea took some of the land. Then what happens if Ivory Coast come and take some and Sierra Leone come and take some? But the truth here is we sit around and we look at the things that are not of priorities, and we talk politics all day, but right under our foot, right on our doorstep, we have a brewing issue that is very important at a national level. And yet we playing it as if to say, oh yeah, the people just come to do XYZ. Legalize them, let them contribute to the economy. We can coexist.
absolutely. Unfortunately, we have some of our friends on other networks and podcasts and talk shows talking about a Nigerian pastor talking about economy confused and this confused and that confused. When we have these critical issues before us, critical national issues before us that pose national security, economic, and social concerns. That is the unfortunate situation that we have in the country, and that's what distinguishes this show from many other gossip shows on social media for Kano. So I appreciate that. It's a critical national issue. We should reach out to policymakers in government. We should reach out to people in the private sector, even opposition political figures, to come here and discuss these critical national issues because it's important. I think the issue of Burkinabes coming into the country has a very serious national security implication. But at the same time, because they have three or four terrorist groups operating in Burkina Faso that occupy a huge swath of the land in Burkina Faso and the Sahel. A region in which Burkina Faso is located. And then there's the economic issue. So they come and they're digging our gold and diamond without being,
I don't know if you can read Roses Pro comment
yeah,
here. The man say he afraid for the intermarriages with the Bassa women because they were
yeah.
born plenty Burkinabe children. Just like how the Lebanese have Lebanese are plenty in the government.
So
So Roses Pro decided to put it more on me. He decided to
I
put it more
saw,
on Bro
I
Ali.
saw, I saw Riverside Plus comment. I didn't want to pick it up or dignify it. If anybody came into the country under Liberian law and had a child with a Liberian citizen, or the child was born like brother, that child is a Liberian citizen, particularly if at age 18 they declare citizenship. And that should not even be the issue here. If
The
people
man
can
concerned about his county. The man from River says now, so that's why.
well, the fact of the matter is that we have laws in our country, and the laws say anyone of Negro descent can come and become citizen of Liberia. Even children born to non-Negroes, but to a Liberian parent, one parent being Liberia, can also be citizens of Liberia. So I don't think that is an issue at all. Um, a lot of us here are immigrants for Kano. We come here, we go through the right process, we get registered, we get work permit, we work, we get documents, and we live here. So when I hear people saying, "Oh, Mandingo people, oh, Fulanese, oh, Lebanese, oh, this or that," it's like, hold on, brother and sister, you went through a process. You live in other people's country, and you want to kick against other people coming to your country. How is that so? What sense does that make? So I often either sideswipe that or don't dignify those things. And I think this issue is way more than that. So I think we should really above those petty things and talk about the security implications, talk about the resource implication, where these people are illegal and they're digging gold and diamond in our villages and towns, and in Grand Cru, in Grand Jita, in River Cess, in and sign up, and we need to curtail that because the resources belong to the country. And one way I believe we can do that is to make sure that we fortify our borders, our border crossings, to make sure we're able to track people coming in. And if they're coming with good intent, to have them registered and put into the system. And then once they're in the system, we have, as I said earlier, we gave them work permit so they can work and gave them a path to regularization and let them begin as they work. They pay income taxes, they pay hot taxes, they pay those things. So the services they will be using, they are paying for the services. And if somebody, if a Basa woman or Basa man sees a Burkinabe and they like them and have kids with them, I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
Let me just go to what some of the things the Liberian government can do right now.
Yes.
Conducting nationwide registration and biometrics identification.
Yep.
We have to put money into places where money belongs. Strengthening border management, of course, because now you know there's an entry point.
Yep.
Just like America knows the entry points to enter here from Texas and to California, demand those places and make sure that immigration is properly managed. Screen for criminals, right? Or security concern, because it is important. Not everyone coming with good intention. Like you said, Burkina Faso is a poor country. Criminals can say, you know what, we can't find anything here. Let's go to Liberia, and we hear the country is booming. Things are happening. That's important. Issue work permits, like you said, and residency document where appropriate. Enforcing mining and land use laws equally for citizens and non-citizens. Working with the government of Burkina Faso and regional bodies such as ECOWAS to manage this kind of migration. Because again, everywhere in the world, immigration has to be controlled, managed well. We're not so afraid. So the greatest danger is not usually the nationality of the migrants themselves, but the government's inability to know how and who's coming in the country, where they are located, and whether they are complying with the laws. Effective documentation and regulation are generally more important than the sheer number of migrants. So just saying, oh, 140,000, it becomes alarming, right? But what is government doing? Government needs to do these things we're talking about. Know where they're coming from, know where they're passing, where they're going to be, the location, are they complying with the law, legalize them, put them to work, they can contribute to the economy.
Absolutely. You're correct. And as I said, I'll make some effort during the week and continue. I know I did some reach out. Unfortunately, I didn't get any response. I reached out to LRRR to see if they could send somebody to join us to have this conversation. I think we should reach out to other institutions, whether it's the Red Cross, International Committee of the Red Cross, the International Organization for Migration, and even just professionals on the issue. Because these are very critical issues that affect our economy, that affect our national security, and that affect assimilation policy. And you nail it with all of those critical issues that you just outlined. Um, Burkina Faso, about 40%, if not more, Burkina Faso is controlled by terror, or at least up to 60% of Burkina Faso. You have terrorist organizations operating in those areas. You also have drought in the Sahel. You have, the economy is poor, is struggling. You have a military government, so people are fleeing and going to other places in the region. Who knows if those terrorist groups that are operating in the country in the region are also sending people to other countries in the region so that they can build a foothold in those places and start operating, carry on their terrorist activities. That's why it's critical for this conversation to be had, to engage policymakers in government and others outside government to make suggestions and see how this issue is addressed. And I hope opposition political parties as well as civil society organizations will join this discussion, and let's turn a blind eye on a Nigerian pastor talking about nonsense and crap.
Thank you. If you're just joining us, welcome to the Issues Room. The Issues Room is one day a week on Tuesday here, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We cover an array of topics, especially things that are affecting our country, the economy, the society. It's not all about politics. I know that everything we put a spin on it when it comes to politics, but this is a matter of national concern, and we thought to throw light on it tonight. If you just joining us, we'd like you to continue to love us, like us, and follow us. Share our links, share our page. Invite others to join us here tonight. We'd like to say, Amma Freeman, welcome to the house. River says, Pro, good to have you back on board, my brother. I know you still love your issues room. This is your platform. Ann Peen, says Ann Peen, thank you for joining us here tonight. We saw a brother from Ohio. Would like to welcome you from Columbus. Um, I also saw Liberia. Welcome to the show, Jackie Willis. Welcome. I saw what's the guy's name here? Is it Justin Telu? Thank you. Welcome. Welcome to the show. To everyone who's here tonight, please continue to share the show. Now, Alfonso, the next piece here before we wrap up because we're on an hour, we was looking at the political election law in Liberia, that has to do with political parties that fail to get 2% of the vote or a legislative seat may not be eligible in 2029 to participate in the elections, whether political party or an independent candidate or a candidate, whatever it is. For political parties, the party could be suspended for nominating candidates for the next two elections for the same office. In practical terms, a party that falls below the threshold in a presidential election may be unable to field or rather a presidential ticket in the next two presidential elections. Can you imagine the way Liberian men let election been it? Then you say two, and a 12 years business we're talking about here. Likewise, a party that fails the threshold in legislative contests could lose the right to nominate legislative candidates in the next two legislative election cycles. Now, that even a little better. Can you imagine if you were doing the Senate? That's 9 years times two. That's
Yeah.
18, right?
Yep.
So, for candidates, affected parties could generally be unable to run under the party's banner during the suspension period. They may have to join. Now, that's another thing. They may have to join and register other political parties, run as independent candidates if legally eligible, or wait until the suspension period expires. Just wanted you to tell me what you know about this whole thing because we have some other areas here, for the emerging parties, the disqualification process, and all of that. But let's start with a summary here. This is now going to be the momentum that would that will shake the electoral process. Right now, it's not that palpable because yeah, we're still cooling off. 2020, 2028, 2027, midway 2028, and people start getting this news. They're already accusing Bwaga of putting Loma Man, and the Loma Man say he will uphold the elections law. And so now, again, everything is politics. They make these things, they make these laws, and then when it comes to the real implementation, then nobody wants to adhere. That's what bothers me because another government didn't do it, so no other government should do it. So the law should just be there, dormant, not doing anything.
Yeah. So first of all, this law was passed in 2014. 2014 by the national legislature. So it's a revision of the election law. Everywhere, even in the Liberian law. So first of all, let me begin by saying no. I don't think Boakai put a Loma man or Kissy man there to stop people from running because there's a law that's always existed. It probably has not been implemented, at least in the last election, the election before this one. maybe it wasn't implemented, or if it was implemented, no political party or independent candidate came up to challenge it. What is happening right now, though, is that during the confirmation hearing, as you said earlier, of the nominated chair of the Elections Commission, he was asked by Senator Dillon whether the commission under him would seek to enforce this law. And he said, yes, it will be. I think based upon that, the Councillor Tiawan Gonglo, representing the Liberal People's Party, went to court because the LPP falls within this dilemma. They did not get.
So so hold on right there. So my man broom, the broom man, he didn't sweep enough garbage.
Yeah. So,
To, so and again, yeah, Alfonso, I know you were in lane, but I just thought to
mhm,
say that the enforceability of this law helps to shrink
uh,
the number of political unnecessary political parties
mhm,
that will confuse voters.
yeah.
People who have no intention, they just throw a party there so that they can become kingmaker, so that they can conglomerate, form collaboration, so they can get big job. That's part of the scam here.
Mhm, yeah. And,
Continue.
and and you're right. So first of all, I mean, you have a point. First of all, they have ballot access in the United States. It's called ballot access, and there are requirements for candidates or political parties to get placed on the ballot. You have to meet those requirements. Liberian election law also has ballot access requirements, one of which is the law that we're discussing right now. So if you do not meet a certain threshold, you will not be included on the ballot for the next election or even for the election you want to contest in. So there are ballot, and you made very salient points as well. The reasons why they have these ballot access laws are to prevent ballot overcrowding. That's one of the reasons. So you have, I heard Councillor Gonglo saying, if this law is implemented, it will affect 20 political parties. Imagine 20 political parties took part in the last election, and 20 of them were unable. 20 of the political parties that took part in the last election were unable to get either 2% or get 1% elected to the legislature. Imagine that. So that is a problem. So you have, especially in a country like Liberia, where a lot of our people can't read, can't write, don't really understand electioneering and politics, to have 35 or 40 political parties on a ballot. I think that's one of the reasons why it's confusing. That's one of the and because the ballot's overcrowded. People don't even know. That's one of the reasons why they have ballot access law requirements. The second reason is to prevent voter confusion, which we just talked about. You confuse the voters when you have 40 political party and 75 independent candidates on the ballot. You confuse the voters. Second thing is to prevent election fraud. There could be fraud. And then to facilitate election administration. The people who administer the elections really, it makes it difficult for them to have to deal with 50, 60, 70 political parties. Those are the reasons why ballot access laws are passed. And we have all about other ballot access laws in our election law besides this one. They say for you to register a political party, you must bring to the election commission at least 500 members from, I believe, 4 or 5 counties. That is ballot access. If you fail to do that, you will not be registered and therefore you will not be included on the ballot. That is a ballot access law as well. So we already have ballot access laws in addition to this, and it's intended to accomplish all of these things. Now, the argument from the other side is no, you will prevent people have a right to form political parties, they have a right to vote, they have a right to freedom of expression, and these laws will restrict them. Well, my question is, Are you also challenging the law that says if you are unable to get 500 people from 6 counties or 5 counties that you can't participate? Are you also arguing that that also prevents people from joining and forming political and contesting elections? If you, because that's also a ballot access requirement. The fact of the matter is that, in my view, forming a political party, forming a political party is not an absolute right. You have to meet certain requirements. Participating in elections is not an absolute right. You have to meet certain requirements. And I disagree that these requirements violate anybody's right to participate in elections, because you can still go and form a new political party if you so choose. You can still go and join another political party if you still choose. The fact here is that your party, your independent candidate, simply didn't meet requirements. That is not preventing you. The final point I want to make on this issue before you come in is people are saying, oh, is preventing people's exercise of their right to freedom of association and whatsoever. No, it is not, because your political party is just not participating in election. It can still exist. Secondly, the right to freedom of association, or you know equal protection, is the belongs to the individual citizen, not to a political party. So, barring a political party doesn't necessarily mean that the members of that political party are being barred from exercising their right. They can form another party, they can join another party, they can run as independent candidates, etc. So, I think the lawsuit will face an uphill battle if the judges and other lawyers really take a very keen look at the law and what it intends to accomplish.
And you're right, because public perception of fairness, yeah, political impact may depend less on the law itself and more on whether Liberians believe it is being enforced consistently, right? A rule applied equally to all parties is generally less controversial than one perceived as targeting specific opponents, because that's
Absolutely.
what they're going to start thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Oh, yeah, only for Alexander Cumming, the no Cumming supposed to be president. Now they brought this other election law. But Cumming knew that law was existing before he put his hat in the race, right? And argument in favor of the rule. Supporters contend that it discourages the proliferation of small parties with little electoral support, like we talked about. Imagine the resources to run an elections, a national elections, with all these proliferation of small political parties, like you said, overloading the ballot, confusing the ballot. People would be forced to go to count those other votes when we didn't even have to, because I mean, if you got 500 votes, what the need of me counting it? But we have to give you the due process. You know, it also, this law also reduces the ballot fragmentation and administrative costs that I'm talking about. So the argument now is that could this create stability instability? Does it threaten stability? By itself, a 2% threshold is unlikely to cause instability from the research. However, if enforcement becomes a partisan issue, if major opposition groups are affected, or if stakeholders lose confidence in the neutrality of the electoral institutions such as the Elections Commission, political tensions could increase during the run-up of the 2029 up to the run-up of the 2029 elections. Ultimately, the degree of any tension will depend on whether the law remains in force, how it is interpreted, whether affected parties have access to legal remedies, as in the case of Gonglo, and whether political actors and the public view the process as fair and transparent. What do you say?
I think that's the crux of the matter. I think the key. First of all, you hit the nail on the head. This law cannot in anybody's right mind or should not be perceived as targeting one group of people because it's fair. It's across the board. If it's supposed to affect everybody. So it's not targeting one group or the other. So I think people should look at it from that point of view. And if you go into a competition and you fail, then it's on you to do better. It's not
So from your smart mind,
yeah,
understanding these things,
yeah.
where does Mr. Cummings stand if this law is enforced?
So
What, Cummings, where does he stand, and
mm,
what would be the alternative if he must be relevant to run in 2029? Because he's one of the people impacted by this law. I
so
know
he's
Tiawan
not.
Gonglo, huh?
So he's not. So the
He's not.
ANC is not impacted by the law.
Oh, I thought they said the man was less than one point something
He
again, my
did.
man.
He got less than 2%, but they elected somebody to the legislature.
Okay. Oh, so
So
they
the
crossed the hump.
ANC got, I think, one person elected to the legislature. So they're not
Okay. So
impacted.
so you all right.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
then
I mean,
Real Says Pro back in business. Okay, okay, okay.
so
So our man, the legal man is the one impacted.
the LPP and
Or
about
he just trying to fight for everybody.
yeah. So the LPP and 19 other political parties, at least according to what he said, are impacted by this. But I mean, you made another important point, which we discussed earlier. A lot of these people form these political parties, jump in this race, knowing they're not there to win, know they will not win. They force the government to expend a lot of resources when in fact their aim is to say I have a political party and then align with somebody during the runoff so they can get jobs. So now the government and the public, because government don't have its own money, it's the public's money. So they're forcing the public to spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, just so that they can negotiate positions tomorrow for themselves. That's one problem that if this law is implemented, that it will address. And what is the benefit of the proliferation of political parties? What is the benefit of it? Why should we have 50 or 60 or 70? I understand that everybody should have a right to participate in the election process. Everybody should run for office when they want to, but there are requirements for you to run for office. And it's good public policy if the government implements requirements that's
Well, my man, internet is holding him hostage. In the meantime, I'll move him backstage, and then we'll come back once he resumes. Normal service. But yes, so that's what we wanted to talk about tonight regarding, this whole two under 2% of the national vote and a legislative seat. Once you feel you don't meet the threshold, uh, to go in the race. Because of course we can't continue to just make elections in Liberia a market ground. Everybody can just come. And I think too one of the other ways to change this whole mindset is to increase the price. Is to increase the price. We need to increase the price to register political parties. We need to put some stateful measures in place, criteria to qualify one and a political party compared to just 500 people. I mean, 500 people, what percentage of that it is in the population? Is it 0.2005 or whatever? I'm just playing. But the truth is, more needs to be done. And I think Alfonso is back. So I'll just get him back, raising his lean from where he were. But yeah, so I was just trying to, say that it's not just this 2% should be part of this discussion, but elections commission can make more money by increasing the registration amount, stiffening the criteria for eligibility, whether political party or whether independent candidate. That may also help to make it difficult because Our elections cannot always be a market ground. Everybody wants to be in the photo. It's not possible.
Well, there might be an argument for Keanu that they're using money to prevent people from running. So money
But
should
we
not.
want you to have some money before you come to power because
Yeah.
we want you to steal. We
So
can't tell broke.
yeah, I agree. I'm only saying there might be that argument as well, especially by the same people who are arguing today that these requirements are also bad. And the point I was trying to make before something happened, unfortunately, is that we get a lot of invalid votes during our elections. I want to argue here without any real concrete evidence, but I want to argue here that part of the reason we get a huge number of invalid votes is because the ballot is overcrowded. Help to address that as well. To say, look, what benefit is it to say every jack who wants to run, even though they know they will not go anywhere or do anything, um, should run as good public policy, but risk having about 2 million or 1 million people casting 100,000 or 200,000 people casting invalid votes because of the overcrowding on the ballot and the confusion. That is a very, so again, it's a public policy consideration. And I think we should err on the side of making sure that majority of people have the right to freely and in an informed way exercise their right to vote, instead of just saying let's put anybody on the ballot. And we don't put anybody on the ballot anyway, as I said before, because there are requirements. So if you make the argument that, oh, I didn't reach 2%, but you if you remove me, you will be violating my right to participate. How about people who went to form political party and they didn't meet the requirements to form political party and to get on the ballot, such as 500 from each county, five, I believe, is four of five counties. Again, as I said earlier, that's also a ballot requirement. So that's where I think there's a lot of holes in this argument that says that this violates people's right to expression and association, or equal protection under the law.
Thank you, Alfonso. I think we call it a night. We're just right there at 8 o'clock. I know you still got your routine to go and take care of.
Yeah.
Can you spare a few minutes so we can
Yep.
just check
Yeah. Yeah.
backstage? Okay, but in the meantime, let me put you back so we can wrap up here. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us here tonight. My good old friends and Issues Room fans. We say thank you for participating in the conversation. For those of you who threw some jabs here in the chat room, we appreciate it. We'll be back here on next Tuesday with the Issues Room. However, I will be here on this Thursday, with the Volcano Shelton Show. Please join me then at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll have a great time together. Again, thank you all and have a great rest of your day. We'll be circling back on the next Tuesday. Until then, good night to everyone.